There are moments in life when everything seems to fall apart. Not with a crash, not with noise, but in silence. You wake up, and something feels off. You go through the motions, eat, work, smile, reply, "I'm good." But deep inside, a quiet voice whispers, "This isn't who I really am." That voice. That's your emotional truth. And the world has trained you to silence it. From a young age, you were told, "Stop crying. Don't be so sensitive. Be strong." And so you did. You built walls. You hid the hurt. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You laughed when your chest ached from holding it in. But no matter how deep you bury it, emotion doesn't disappear. It waits. It waits for stillness, for quiet, for that one night when you're alone in the dark and there's nowhere left to run. And in that moment, you feel everything. But what if I told you, that feeling is your key to freedom? Because emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about understanding it. It's about honoring it. It's about becoming so self-aware that you can walk through fire, and still keep your heart intact. Most people are terrified of their own feelings. So they numb. They scroll. They binge. They distract themselves with noise so they don't have to hear what their soul is trying to say. But emotional intelligence, it's the courage to listen. It's the bravery to pause and ask, "What am I feeling right now? And what is this feeling trying to teach me?" Because every emotion has a message. Anger isn't the enemy. It means something feels unfair or crossed a boundary. Sadness isn't weakness. It shows you've lost something meaningful. Fear doesn't mean you're broken. It means something matters. And joy means alignment. It means, for once, your soul and your actions are in harmony. When you ignore your emotions, you create internal war. But when you listen to them, when you learn their language, you begin to heal. And healing is what emotional intelligence is all about. It's not about being positive all the time. It's about being real. Real with your struggles. Real with your triggers. Real with your past. And still choosing growth. Let me ask you something, have you ever lashed out and regretted it? Have you ever said, "I'm fine," when you were breaking inside? Have you ever pushed people away, not because you wanted to, but because it felt safer than being vulnerable? We've all been there. That's why emotional intelligence matters. Because it gives you pause. It gives you choice. It gives you back control. Instead of reacting out of pain, you respond from awareness. Instead of avoiding conflict, you speak with clarity. Instead of shutting down, you open up, not to everyone, but to yourself. And when you do that, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel safe, not because the world changes, but because you change. Your inner world becomes your anchor. And no matter what happens around you, you come home to yourself. You learn to sit with discomfort. You learn to embrace silence. You learn to cry without shame. You learn to forgive, not for them, but for your peace. You learn to say no without guilt, and yes without fear. Emotional intelligence gives you freedom. Freedom from being a prisoner of your past. Freedom from needing validation. Freedom from repeating the same cycles again and again. It teaches you that being human isn't something to hide. It's something to honor. Because emotions aren't the problem. Avoiding them is. Let yourself feel. Let yourself break, if you must. Because sometimes, the breaking is what lets the light in. There is no shame in struggling. There is no weakness in tears. In fact, the people who feel the most are often the ones with the strongest hearts. Because to feel deeply in a world that tells you to get over it, that's courage. To keep showing up, even with a heavy heart, that's resilience. To choose growth over bitterness, that's power. You don't need to have it all together. You don't need to be unshakable. You just need to be willing to look inward and listen. And when you do that consistently, day after day, you build emotional strength no one can take from you. You become someone who doesn't need to control the world, because you've learned to lead yourself. You become someone who doesn't run from pain, but transforms it into wisdom. You become someone who's no longer reactive, but deeply responsive, grounded, and whole. That's the power of emotional intelligence. It turns you into a quiet storm, a calm force, a compassionate warrior. Not someone who doesn't feel, but someone who feels everything and still chooses peace. Because real peace isn't found in external perfection. It's found in internal understanding. And when you reach that place, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing people who don't value you. You stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop bending to make others comfortable, and start honoring your truth. And from that place of clarity, you begin to live. Not survive. Live. You stop existing for the weekend, and start waking up with purpose. You stop settling for, almost, and start demanding, alignment. You stop fearing emotion, and start embracing it as the compass of your soul. This is your reminder. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present with yourself. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to ask better questions. You don't need to be unbreakable. You just need to be willing to rebuild. And every single time you choose self-awareness over self-judgment, you win. Every time you pause instead of explode, you grow. Every time you cry and don't apologize for it, you heal. That's the real work. That's the real success. Because no amount of money, fame, or applause can replace what it feels like to truly know yourself and love yourself. So if today you're feeling lost, start by listening. Not to the world. To you. Start by asking, what do I feel right now? What do I need? What am I avoiding? What am I afraid of? And then answer with honesty. Because honesty with yourself is the beginning of freedom. And if no one told you today, you're not weak for feeling. You're not behind in life. You're not too broken to heal. You are enough. Exactly as you are. And from this place, you will rise. If this message touched something in your heart, please don't keep it to yourself. Hit the like button, subscribe to Compassionate Mindset, and share this video with someone who might need it today. Your support helps this message reach more people, and together, we can build a world where compassion and emotional intelligence aren't the exception, but the norm. Thank you for being here. You matter. And your journey is just beginning.